My wife had been unfaithful to me with a friend of hers for approximately 7 years. I discovered this in mid-July when I accessed her phone and found text messages between her and her friend. These messages were from a day after D-Day. On the day in question, the couple discussed the quality of their intimacy. They also discussed a minor disagreement, during which she recounted his words and they both laughed about it. He attempted to explain that they may be entering a new phase of marriage, where they are comfortable and complacent. He suggested that this might feel a little boring, but that this is simply how things are once you are married. For more than a few years, she has been convinced that this is wrong and that we have drifted apart, despite spending our days together in good conversation and having sex. She is unaware that I know this, and that I have consulted with a lawyer and have initiated the process of divorce. It is worth noting that this is the second time she has done this. The first time she cheated was when we were dating. We had been together for 6 months. After a 6-month separation, we attempted to reconcile. However, she subsequently resumed her extramarital affair. I informed her that if she were to engage in such behavior again, our marriage would be irreparably damaged. We have been relatively stable and conflict-free for 6 years, but a year ago, she began exhibiting signs of emotional distance and was reluctant to accept my affection. Affectionate gestures, such as a lack of physical contact in the form of hugs, also contributed to the growing distance between the two. Fast forward to the present, I have been aware of the situation for 3 weeks and have been waiting for the appropriate time to confront her. Initially, she seemed disinterested in me, but recently, her behavior has indicated a shift in her attitude. She has become more remorseful about her actions and somewhat more interested in me. She has been attempting to make amends for her actions in her own way, without discussing the matter with me. This has involved washing dishes, cleaning, cooking, and so on, while refusing any assistance. It seems as though she is punishing herself in my absence. It is important to note that she has completely betrayed me and that I am no longer able to trust her. The pain she has caused me is significant, and it is unlikely that she can love me if she is willing to engage in such actions. Financially, we have been able to manage, but there have been challenges due to her reluctance to work. She has recently begun working for a year, but the position is minimum wage and part-time. Her current employment is insufficient to cover her expenses. I feel compelled to assume the majority of the financial responsibilities, yet she remains a superior in terms of our shared life and its associated concerns. I am concerned about her potential for depression. The most viable option, in my opinion, is divorce. However, I am concerned about how she will react and the difficulty of resisting the temptation to take her back. I am tempted to wish that she would happily leave with her new partner. I am aware that I must divorce her, but I am not looking forward to the heartbreak, loneliness, and other consequences that I cannot even predict. How should I proceed with this update? In 3 days, I will take decisive action. I ask that you remind me in 3 days. It may take longer than 3 days to complete the necessary paperwork. My lawyer will provide me with the necessary documentation in 3 days, but I must carefully review it to ensure its accuracy. I apologize for the delay, but I believe it is inevitable that my wife will face consequences for her actions. Last week, I informed you that I had discovered my wife's infidelity. I have not yet confronted her, but I intend to do so as soon as possible. I am currently in the process of preparing for this confrontation and have not yet decided on the best way to approach it. In an effort to ascertain the truth, I downloaded a complete text message log of her conversations with AP. I was shocked to discover that she is far more unfaithful than I had previously believed. I had assumed that her affair began in July, but it was not as I had thought. In fact, her affair began in May, and from March to May, she had another affair, this one involving unprotected intimacy with a heroin addict. Given that the subject is an addict, the total number of instances of infidelity is 4. The current AP was the first to be established. In order to gain his support, the subject lied to him about the nature of our relationship. She told him that I had insulted her in a mean way, which was not true at all. This gave him justification for his subsequent actions, which included manipulating her by telling her that she deserved better than me and that I was a piece of ... He also told her that I was a child. He considered himself a relationship coach and would listen to her complaints about me and offer advice on how I would respond or the reason I did that. He would also discuss the person she was cheating with and how to handle her relationship. I was unaware of the issues she was upset about. She never told me. He has never met me, yet he believes he can predict all my behavior. This individual prides himself on his control over others. He boasts about it. He considers himself a relationship guru. This is a misnomer. He is a church minister. He boasts about how he helps a team or group get closer to God. In one instance, he boasts about how he helped a teenager break up with his girlfriend. He then did a good job consoling her. The girlfriend was suicidal at the time, so she was susceptible to this charismatic individual's advances. His portrayal of himself as a benevolent figure was a form of manipulation. He referred to her living situation as prison, and he disparagingly called me the ass. In contrast, I am the one who provides emotional support, financial stability, and a welcoming environment for her. I am the one who values her above all others. I must acknowledge that I prioritize self-care and personal growth. I believe that personal improvement is a lifelong process, and that individuals should continuously strive to enhance their personal growth and development. However, in my observation, she has not demonstrated any significant progress or positive change over the past 10 years. She has maintained an unhealthy weight, discontinued her college education, and is currently employed in a minimum wage position. In a previous employment, I attempted to encourage her to enhance her performance. I invited her to attend the gym with me or participate in a sport, but she declined. She was unemployed for 4 years while I paid her student loan and accumulated an alarming credit debt. I requested that she secure employment on a weekly basis, but she did not. I suggested that she pursue further education, and I would cover the costs. She could study any subject she desired, but she never did. After several years of urging her to focus on self-improvement, I began to feel discouraged. At times, I found myself criticizing her for her lack of effort. In my frustration, I occasionally resorted to being unkind, which was a deeply misguided and unfortunate action on my part. I ceased all such criticism a few years ago, before her affairs began. Despite my ongoing criticism, she continued to love me. However, now that I am no longer criticizing her, she no longer loves me. I want to clarify that my criticism was never motivated by hatred. I believe that a marriage is a partnership that should be equal, and that she should be my equal. My intention was to help her. I attempted to gain equality in our relationship, but she was not receptive to this idea. I believe that a marriage is a partnership that should be equal, with each partner supporting the other. However, she relied on me for support, and now that I am in school and in need of assistance, she has become unstable. This instability has manifested in infidelity and resentment, yet she has not addressed her issues with me. She has a problem with me, and she brings it up with her AP, who tells her what I would probably say. She informed her mother about her affair and tried to justify her actions. Despite my attempts to convey the gravity of my actions, she remained unconvinced. My wife, however, was quick to condemn me, expressing her displeasure at her mother's apparent lack of support. This led to a heated exchange between the two women, with my wife seeking validation from AP. He swiftly aligned himself with her perspective, rationalizing her mother's stance. My wife's actions suggest a tendency to seek external validation, particularly in the form of agreement, to justify her actions. This is evident in her attempts to portray me as a negative figure, despite the reality of our relationship. Her emotional intelligence is limited, and she often fails to recognize the nuances of our interactions. Despite my best efforts, she remains an enigma to me. Her mental image of me is not aligned with who I truly am. She fixates on the person I used to be, yet I have undergone significant changes over the past few years. Despite this, she has failed to recognize these changes. She has no intention of leaving me because she believes she has me under her control. She has informed AP that if she leaves me, she is nothing. As a busy student, I do not have the time to devote to her the same way I used to. This may be a contributing factor to the infidelity. The challenges she presents are of the utmost importance to me. She exhibits a tendency towards instability, which has led to the current situation. I have conducted exhaustive research on her, and despite this, she remains unaware of my awareness of her despicable conduct. I have divorce papers scheduled for delivery on Wednesday, and I am eagerly awaiting the opportunity to inflict significant damage to our relationship. Initially, I had intended to pursue a more diplomatic approach, but after reviewing the evidence, I have decided to adopt a more assertive stance. I want her to fully comprehend the gravity of her actions and the extent of her problematic behavior. My previous post indicated that I was not actively seeking a divorce. I was initially enthusiastic about the prospect of this encounter, but now I am filled with a sense of anticipation. I eagerly anticipate the opportunity to read her text and respond in kind, demonstrating the extent of her misguided actions. I am eager to highlight the manipulative tactics employed by AP, which have led to a situation that is untenable. I am seeking guidance and potential solutions to a challenging dilemma. My dog is a source of great affection and attachment for AP, and she is willing to go to great lengths to protect it. However, our financial constraints prevent us from pursuing legal recourse. I am seeking guidance on how to maintain my dog's well-being without resorting to litigation. The sum of $30,000 in court-ordered attorney fees is a significant sum. It is therefore understandable that the individual in question may be considered to be acting in a somewhat irrational manner. The individual in question has indicated that she is prepared to leave the country with her belongings and the dog, despite the fact that she has been served with papers. However, there is a problem in that the individual in question lives at the school where she is employed, and she is required to be present there in September. There is a great deal more to this story, but the text messages between the individual in question and her former partner, which have been made available to me, are in excess of 100 pages. Therefore, this is a very condensed update, and I apologize for the lack of detail. I have been given to understand that I have been allowed to proceed with this update, which is the last one that I will be permitted to write. The papers took a significantly longer time to process than I had been led to believe. Having now obtained them, however, I am beginning to piece together the various elements of the case. I intend to serve her with the papers in approximately 1 week's time, but as is often the case, circumstances may not unfold in precisely the manner I had anticipated. My wife is unaware that I discovered her infidelity over a month ago and have been planning for our separation. I have been residing with her and acting as though everything is normal for this entire period, and she is completely unaware of the situation. It has been challenging not to catch her. I have observed her communicating with him via text messages and would have identified her numerous times had I not been so careful. She has not changed her password and continues to discuss him as though he is merely a friend. It is difficult to endeavor to maintain composure when she discusses him, yet I am compelled to take action on occasion. I am conflicted about plotting against her to undermine her position. While I recognize that it is not wrong to do so, I question whether it is morally appropriate for me to do so, regardless of the consequences for her. Some days, it is challenging to conceal my anger about her actions. On other days, it seems like a surreal experience. We engaged in a heated discussion about our relationship, during which I was able to confront her. She has made a number of poor choices without acknowledging the truth of my previous statements. I informed her that I did not love her and that I had lost interest in her a week ago. I have been using the recent argument as a cover for my true feelings. Now, if I am angry or cold, she believes it is because of the argument we had. I was the only thing holding our relationship together. However, now that I know about her infidelity, I have no reason to put in any effort. As a result, our relationship has drastically fallen apart. I informed her of the situation and it seems she was aware of its veracity, as evidenced by her actions following the altercation. It is evident that the circumstances are not optimal. When we were married, she chose me, and there should not be a need for her to consider other options. She has been exerting significant effort to demonstrate her desire to salvage the relationship, yet from my perspective, her actions have been inadequate and belated. There is nothing she can do to alter the current situation. She placed us in this situation, she made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. The infidelity began when her position as the absolute center of my life was challenged. Her substantial attention from me, which she derives happiness from, was challenged, so she sought the attention elsewhere rather than communicating with me. What I find truly amusing is that the man she has chosen to have affairs with does not treat her as the number one priority either. One of the men regularly ignored her for weeks, while the other has an ex. The man in question has a wife and child whom he has informed her will always be his priority. He has been seen around town with other women. It is important to note that this individual is a youth pastor, which places him in a position of authority and influence over her. Despite their professed love for each other and the importance they place on their relationship, he has informed her that he plans on moving to another city. He has a child with his former partner, yet this does not concern her. She is willing to accept this situation, yet she is unable to cope with my focus on my studies. Consequently, she has decided to stay with her parents for a few weeks to clear her head. This makes things easier for me, as I no longer have to worry about her refusing to leave or attacking me. She may engage in certain behaviors, and she has already made plans to return. However, she is unaware that I have arranged for her to receive divorce papers on the day after she arrives at her parents' residence. Consequently, I have approximately 1 week remaining before the divorce is finalized. While I am eager for this process to conclude, I am also saddened by the prospect of losing my dog, whom I have come to love deeply. It is important to note that we are highly attached to each other, but I have no hope of keeping him. There are some circumstances that make this difficult. I am unable to provide further details regarding the circumstances surrounding this situation. However, it is clear that it is not feasible for me to retain ownership of the animal in question. I anticipate that I will experience a profound sense of loss as a result of this decision. I recently presented my wife with divorce papers, which she received in a state of shock and disbelief. I had been aware of her infidelity for over a month, but I chose not to confront her directly. Instead, I carefully devised a plan to extricate myself from the situation in a manner that would minimize the impact on her. I have endeavored to minimize the difficulties for myself. For the past month, I have been acting in a normal manner, engaging in cheerful interactions, purchasing items for her, and engaging in conversations. This has been a challenging period for me. I have been tempted to confront her, but I have refrained from doing so because it would have made things more difficult for me. Instead, I have been exercising regularly, lying to her, drafting documents, collecting over 450 pages of explicit messages, and setting up a new debit account. The account was prepared for the transfer of funds and the persuasion of the woman to take some time at her parents' house. Everything proceeded according to plan, including the prediction of the exact reaction of the woman and her family. The woman's credit card was frozen with the name of the man and half of the couple's money was transferred to the new debit account as soon as the papers were delivered. The woman left with her mother the following day. The man gave her a hug and said, "Take care of yourself," she said. This morning, a process server arrived at her parents' home and delivered the papers. She was unaware that I had been monitoring her actions. Her parents were similarly unaware of the situation. She was completely blindsided and was apparently hysterical. I say hysterical because I have yet to speak with her. Her mother called me and I had to explain the situation to her. Nevertheless, there are higher-level details to consider. Even in a situation like this, her mother is attempting to solve the problems for her. This is an absurd situation. I cannot even discuss my personal relationship with my wife privately. This is a 29-year-old woman who is allowing her mother to mediate and speak on her behalf. Although I did have a good relationship with my mother-in-law, she did encourage my wife to work on her marriage. I find this situation perplexing. It is beyond idiotic of them both. I handled everything with tact, kept my composure, and did not let my emotions do the talking. However, I had to bite my lip when discussing getting her wife's things. My mill used language that implied I was responsible for getting her stuff back to her. She even suggested I pack the stuff, rent a car, and drive the 4 hours to deliver it. The stuff in question is mostly t-shirts and lotion bottles. The items in question are primarily shirts and lotion bottles. I informed her that it was not my responsibility. She then asserted that if I respected her, I would do her a favor. This was an attempt to manipulate me. I informed her that this had nothing to do with the matter at hand and that I would not be manipulated. I have a great deal of respect for her, and I am grateful for her efforts to keep certain issues off the table. However, I am prepared to bring certain matters to court and prove that her infidelity has cost us both a great deal of money. I am also prepared to claim that she has stolen our dog. Furthermore, I am prepared to provide evidence to her employer, which will result in his dismissal from his position as a youth pastor. I am trying to make this as affordable and simple as possible. She has now backed down, and she will be picking up the items in question. I must await their next move. It seems probable that they are attempting to retain legal counsel and contest the ownership of the dog, which represents the most significant point of contention. Interestingly, this issue has not been raised by the respondent. It is likely that her mother is providing her with emotional support and reassuring her that her multiple extramarital relationships are acceptable. This is despite her continued involvement in these relationships, including returning home at night. It is understandable that one would expect love and affection. In another thread, it was mentioned that the woman in question might have borderline personality disorder based on some of her statements. It is possible that she does have this disorder. It is also understandable that they are currently concerned about such insignificant belongings. However, it is odd that they are so worried about them. Is it also odd that my wife is not handling this with me? Should I refuse to deal with her mother? Is my wife mentally unstable? It seems that she might be. Should I let them come and take her belongings? I am reluctant to assume responsibility for her belongings. I am disinclined to engage in this matter. I am displeased with the situation. I am being straightforward and honest with them, yet they are attempting to manipulate me. I am displeased with the necessity of resorting to physical force. I am displeased with the role I have always played as a financial supporter for my wife, merely a conduit for her financial obligations to her parents. I am displeased with the lack of civility and rationality in our discourse. I am an adult, and I am ashamed of my own actions. I am ashamed that her mother lied to me about her daughter's infidelity. I am ashamed that I am confused by my own actions. I am ashamed that I am so instinctively concerned about her well-being and want to ask her about her preferences when I see ice cream at the store. Most of all, I am ashamed that I am still considered the bad guy by them. 2 years after the divorce, I received a few messages asking about the outcome of the situation. In essence, the situation was amicable and mutually beneficial. There was no communication between the two parties, and they both moved on. The divorce was relatively inexpensive, as there were no outstanding debts or assets to divide. The only drawback was that I had to give up my dog, but it seems that he is still living happily with her after the divorce. I graduated, obtained employment, and relocated. She relocated to her parents' guest bedroom and never moved out. She obtained a low-wage job and has not engaged in any other activities since. I am aware of this because she has blocked me on social media, despite never having said anything to me. I dated a couple of women and found one who was extremely special and showed me love. I lost her, so I am currently single and doing extremely well with dating. In fact, I have found that every single woman I have met has been leagues better than my ex-wife. I was married, but I would like to be back with my recent girlfriend. I would like to be in a relationship with her again. Such is life. I have a great job that pays well financially. While she is in her 30s, she is living with her retired parents. I guess I came out on top and relatively unscathed.